Welcome to Virtual Society. I'm your host, Itamar, where we explore the art of Web3 gaming, community building, and much more. Today, I'm excited to welcome Cryptomattk, an expert in cryptocurrency marketing and community building. Matt is the head of partnership and spaces at MPM Labs and the marketing team lead for the Forge DeFi. I have tuned in to two talks Matt gave in the past about community and about marketing in Web3 and just had to get him on the show. His recent outtake on Spaces as a Service and how to capitalize on the recent changes to the X algorithm to reach a broader audience are super important, whether you are working on any brand, including your own. Thank you, Matt, again, for being here. Enjoy the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to jump straight into it and ask, why do Twitter Spaces matter?
So great question. And I think importantly, I want to talk about the market first. We're at a point in the market where, more liquidity is getting unlocked. More people are starting to use crypto at scale. We're kind of in that post-halving vibe where, we're getting more users and more people are curious and hungry. During the winter, spaces were not profitable, I don't think. If you told me a year and a half ago when I started my freelance journey to get into spaces and there's a way to monetize spaces, I would tell you you're crazy. But Twitter Spaces now matter because from my perspective, and yes, I am biased because I'm a Spaces host, but spaces are important right now because it allows companies and projects to leverage their already existing communities and business models to help bring them to the next level of growth.
So how does that play out? How do I use spaces, say, for Game 7, in order to accelerate us to the next step, really?
So, there's this interesting thing that I've started to, push in my community on my personal brand. I call it my SaaS offering, Spaces as a Service. And this is not, unique in any way, shape, or form. It's just unique for me because this is the first time I'm actually out there, beating the drum on this stuff. But there are other people and projects like marketing agencies and freelancers, spaces hosts that are out there already doing this, and they're making good money on it. I've heard, especially recently, people are pulling in, $5,000 to $10,000 a month, offering these services for clients. And the way that you guys would be able to implement this into your protocol or into your community, let's say you want, Spaces as a Service can be implemented in one of three ways: with marketing, with community, and with BD. So imagine these kind of like three branches coming down off of like the Spaces as a Service being like up top, right? Let's say Game 7 just wants to focus on creating content and marketing. That's easy. Don't need to explain that too much. You have that right here. And that gets taken care of because you're generating content and you're generating brand awareness. Let's say you have a focus on community building and you want to educate the Spaces world, the Twitter, the X world about what you guys are building at Game 7. You can make a topic around gaming, around, whatever is relevant to what you are building, and reach out to folks that are experts in that particular topic, subject matter experts, and ask them to show up on your panel. When they come to your panel, through just being live and being out in public, building in public, as everyone likes to say, you will be able to educate people about Game 7 and show them that you exist as a company. So then you kind of take it from the 0 to 1 model, right? And I always, to help educate everyone that I'm talking to about this, there's a concept in marketing called the flywheel marketing mechanism. So if you imagine like a pinwheel as a kid, you blew into this pinwheel and it used to spin. It's the same kind of concept. The community member will come in. They won't know who you are. They'll show up on the space. They'll get educated. Then eventually you could ask for conversion on that space, whether joining Discord, whether joining Telegram. having them follow you on Twitter, on X, and then they reach the top of the flywheel again, which then, allows them to go and enter the Discord and have further touch points, or they can go and tell their friends about you. So that is the branch of community right there that you can take care of. So now there's this last component of BD, business development. Take the same flywheel mechanism, but also apply a kind of funnel approach to the spaces. People can show up and you can ask prospects that you're looking to build business with, or you haven't had an opportunity to sit down with on a call, to show up and talk about the particular topic. If you end up connecting with them on that space, you can hit them up in the DMs live, talk to them about how much you love the points that they're making, look to book a one-on-one call with them afterwards, and then you can sit down and actually look to book business with them, or, launch a partnership, stuff like that. So really, depending on what the client's needs are, you can do either one or all three of the marketing, community, and BD initiatives in order to help them scale out their business model.
Interesting. So you're talking pretty much on, and let me see if that's something that you agree or disagree with. That's pretty much leveraging content creation in order to build community on one hand, not necessarily just marketing, but building the relationships, both from a user's perspective, so a community perspective, and from a business perspective, so business development. I would say, do you think there is a difference between doing that in a space, pretty much a live show, or similar to what we're doing here now, through a podcast or a YouTube show or anything that isn't necessarily live? Do you see any advantage to doing it via spaces rather than doing it via just a podcast?
So this is actually really interesting that you're asking this question. I was actually just talking to someone yesterday because I have actually gone and created a Telegram group where I'm inviting, spaces hosts, speakers, marketers, community builders, KOLs, all that stuff are joining this kind of networking Telegram community that I'm building to discuss exactly this and see how they can not only help each other leverage their skill set, but help support each other as we grow into this next phase of the market. And to kind of further answer your question, this one creator that I was speaking to, which also really applies to what you're doing here, they sit down, him and his partner sit down with founders. They discuss what the founder is building, what pain points they're going through. And then after the podcast gets closed, they can, book a one-on-one call with them or a group call with them and the team and discuss how to work through the challenges that they're going through. So in a way, that creator is also using their podcasts as a funnel to get founders specifically assistance on, whether it's VC needs or marketing or, whatever pain points they're going through. They then offer them a comprehensive package around finding solutions for those problems, and they look to close a deal.
Interesting. So I'll share some, maybe a bit of the rationale to why we're doing this show and why we're doing GameSpot as well. It's not necessarily that we have identified a huge chunk of people that are very interested to learn about this specific thing. That's not necessarily the reason why both shows came to be. It was really more about sharpening the axe for both myself and for Ronen, and to pretty much get better at our craft, each his own, by bringing experts and kind of pick their brains. That obviously leads to a lot of partnerships as well. We had Wanderers on that pretty much got into the Game 7 portal first because of the show. We have several others that we interviewed first, and then we started to do business with after, because it opens the door for that. So in terms of where and the way that I really see content, there's a bigger plan here in terms of what we want to do with education and skill trees and other stuff that we want to do in Game 7. But I think that basically for us, it's really more about the business dev and the community side rather than the marketing side of it for now, because we know that the time will come when it makes more sense to pretty much push the button and start distributing shorts pretty much everywhere so people would learn about the show, and then we will attract a different type of audience into Game 7, like audience that is more intrigued by working in the space and best practices and whatever. But right now we don't necessarily have the offers for them in place. So we're holding off on that because we know what type of audience it's going to attract, and we want the offer for them to be ready and available before we're distributing like everywhere and just losing people because they're rolling into the Discord and then they don't necessarily have something to keep them there.
And I think that's really cool that you guys are doing that right now, because you are effectively creating a backlog of content through this, right? So right now you're in this like content generation phase, you're building up your library, but simultaneously, you know, you're doing deals in the back door, so to speak, to help people out, right? So it's funny, the whole time you're talking, I'm like, how, you know, SaaS, and then I'm like, PaaS, you know, so it's like you're doing podcast as a service. It's the same concept. It's so powerful to see that other people are doing it. And like you said, it doesn't have to be this, you know, live on the go concept. I think there's almost like kind of like a security blanket around that, because like
a little bit,
like less like
even though we aren't really like utilizing it, and I think that everyone that kind of tunes into this show week in, week out can attest for that, because we're trying to keep the conversations real. Like, sure, we're preparing for them in advance. As you know, we've met before, we discussed, okay, what's the topic that should we actually discuss on this podcast. We had a few, we have a brief that we're working through, but we're trying to keep the conversation natural, because if it's totally structured and I'm asking you A question and you're answering B answer, it sounds horrible, and it's not. It loses the human aspect of it. It's way less of a risk, because if something does slip up, say something that we shouldn't necessarily have said, then yeah, sure, we can edit it out, but we haven't really used it. Like, nothing really slipped up. It's more about like the touch-ups and making sure that the final cut is more pleasant, but we haven't really used it as for security measures yet.
I think the cool thing is too that, you know, you're kind of touching on like numbers and like the amount of people that you're hitting with this type of format. What I've noticed, because that's the other friction that you get when you sell these services, right? They're like, well, why do you only have, you know, under 100 people live in your room when, you know, KOL influencer X that charges $1,000 a space has hundreds of people in there? And it's like, the reality is like these spaces are being botted. That's the reality. You can go through and scroll. And, you know, am I like exposing this kind of, I'm not going to sit here and name names, but like, you know, I'm bringing awareness to this because I don't think a lot of people are talking about this. But I would personally much rather have a curated panel of expert speakers that are all looking to do business with one another, digging in deep about a topic that is trending or hot on the market right now, or just relevant to that particular niche in the industry, than having, you know, 20 active listeners that have the blue check mark next to their name, and then like a bunch of bots under that, you know. And you can tell because they have less than 100 followers, less than 100 following. They have, you know, they're only reposting everything. It's your typical kind of like airdrop farmer account. Yeah, they won't have a blue check mark, and it's just not good content. And a lot of their replies are also very generic, like, DPIN is the next winning narrative in crypto, like just kind of stuff like that. You can once you start being aware of it, you can kind of pick up on it when you tap
pretty easily, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say that once you have an eye for it, it's pretty easy to detect. How does your role in MPM Labs and how does your role, obviously, in Forge DeFi played into everything here?
Yeah, good question. So MPM Labs is kind of like, the best way to describe it is like your go-to growth agency. They want to help you succeed as a project, go-to-market strategy, growth strategy. It's all in-house, and there's a team of we have close to like 20 people working there, and everyone has their own expertise that they can leverage in the market, whether it's, like I was saying, go-to-market strategy. The top dog over there, Max, has like 8 years of. He was on the board of directors for a Web2 brand strategy company, so he is like a weapon when it comes to building a narrative and launching it into the market. We have connections with partner agencies that help leverage your KOLs and leverage alpha callers if you're trying to do something like a TGE or an NFT launch. So that's kind of in a very quick wrap up what MPM Labs does. What I do for them is effectively hunt and expand our Rolodex. Every week it's getting bigger and bigger. We have I would say close to 100 founders, BD people, co-founders of various RWA and DPIN projects, which is like one of the niches that we're focusing on, because of the fact that we are so in bed with the Forge, because we helped bring the Forge to market. The Forge, the MPM Labs inevitably has like a certain percentage of the company at the Forge, because of the fact that we are so deeply ingrained with the go-to-market strategy, and we helped create it to be what it is today, right? So it's beyond just a monetary relationship. It's beyond just a payout, a launch, and hey, we'll see you later. It goes deeper than that. And so these long-lasting relationships that we're creating help foster communities like what you see at the Forge. So the Forge is, to kind of dissect this a little bit, is it's a community NFT project, DeFi protocol being built all in kind of like a one-stop project under a management company, and it is the founder of this is looking to bring his private equity real estate business on chain. So, this guy Doc has has like 15 years of experience in the real estate industry out in the tri-state area in the US, really focused on, and he's done everything from like being the guy, boots on the ground on the project, out in the field, as they say, hammering away, building the buildings or doing the carpentry work for the houses, all the way up to underwriting and filing for insurance and stuff like that, and then all the way to being the founder of a private equity shop. So through his various connections, he's able to leverage the real estate deals that he has and offer them to the, call it, average Web3 user, the Joe Schmo, the person that does not have the $100,000 net worth or the ultra high net worth individual accreditation status in the US that allows you access to these deals that are typically reserved for those individuals. So once you kind of imagine taking this Web2 business and plugging it into the blockchain, it allows this unlock of global liquidity. And it's an amazing opportunity because of the fact that we are offering, the company does well because they can access global liquidity, and the Web3 user benefits because they're getting access to these private equity deals at a lower buy-in rate than your typical, like I was mentioning earlier, the high net worth individual blocker, effectively gatekeeper, that mechanism that's in place in these traditional markets.
That makes sense. Okay. So how did you first really get involved in the cryptocurrency like industry? What drew you? Like how and when did you took pretty much the red pill?
Yeah, this is really interesting, right? So like through, my best friend from growing up, I found out about Bitcoin, I found out about crypto, and I was like gung ho about it. It was incredible. I was so excited about it. But then 2018, 2019 happened, and my, high 4-digit portfolio dropped to, around like $500. And I was like, whoa, shit, this is crazy. So, it was like, and also tough times at that point too. Like I had to sell everything at a loss in order to pay my rent at the time. It's just like, it was a shit show. But, by the way, apologies. I don't know if we could curse here, but
no worries, go for it.
Yeah, it was a mess. A flustercuck, as they say in America. But I spent 2019 and 2018, kind of like observing the market, like really listening to all the podcasts that I could. Then COVID hit, and I was a underground house and techno DJ at the time in Colorado, and my main income was focused primarily on in-person events, people showing up to, your door. And so if I wasn't able to get bodies into a door, like literally became illegal to do that, I wasn't able to make an income. So I had to really like sit down and have a hard conversation with myself of like, hey, it's time to pivot away from this lifestyle. It's time to pivot away from this business model. If I try to stick with it, it's going to be really, really tough. But at that point, I had been doing it for like 5+ years, and I was ready to embrace a new kind of lifestyle and a more sustainable business and lifestyle. So I packed up my stuff in Colorado. I moved back home to New Jersey, and pretty much like January of 2021, I started working in crypto. I started off as like a content creator, copywriter, social media manager. Eventually, I made my way up to the head of community at a DeFi lending protocol. That lasted, and I learned a lot about, working at an A16Z funded, Silicon Valley funded project, and how, the level of excellence and the professionalism that is required to work at a place like that. As they say, like I really broke my teeth in there. And so after a year and a half of working there, budget cuts started happening. The winter started happening. FTX collapsed, and everyone, the uncollateralized lending market was just like blowing up left and right. So, I stuck it out with the company as long as I could. Eventually we had to part ways, and I started my freelance journey. Literally and since then it's just been one relationship and contact has gotten me the next lead to the next lead to the next lead. And it's just the consistent message here throughout this whole experience is just like, keep showing up for yourself, keep showing up for others, keep networking, and eventually like you'll be able to leverage the skills that you learn along the way into a paid role somewhere. Yeah, I'll stop there.
I totally agree. Yeah, I love that, because taking pretty much agency on your own life, because it was a very difficult time. When FTX collapsed, the entire market was very shaky. Everyone that held pretty much a full-time position in the space was worried. Quite a few have lost their job, but you need to learn how to pick yourself up, because the space that we are in is volatile, and the ground is shaky, like constantly. So you need to be prepared for it, and you need a lot of people that are aware of pretty much your capabilities, and you need to show your worth, I would say, to a lot of people, because then you only really depend on yourself, really, because even if you would lose your job and be available, someone will either pick you up, or you will have enough tools in order to do something on your own pretty much right away, which I think is very important. Now, you had that journey of pretty much starting starting your agency on your own, just because we're moving into pretty much building a structure that will help community members from Game 7, I would say, to do similar stuff. So we're looking at it as skill trees. So we're a DAO, and we want to act more like one. And we want to help people pretty much get the skills that are required in order to provide value to the greater good of the DAO. And one of the verticals that we are exploring is content creation. What would you say is important for content creators, specifically in the Web3 space? Like, what do they need to know in terms of platform skills, like writing, video, Twitter, YouTube, whatever?
I say if you're just starting out on this, and I think this is really great that we're having this conversation at this point in time, at this point in where the market is at, because again, like I alluded to earlier, I have a feeling that there will be a massive shift in the market here soon. And the reason why I'm focusing so much on networking right now and creating relationships is because, especially with marketers, is that I have a feeling that there will be so much work in the upcoming quarters, especially as we get into 2025, that one person will not be able to manage or in a sustainable way take on these responsibilities at all these organizations. And all of a sudden there will be a lack of high quality, high impact marketers in the space. And that's why I think it's so key for us to create these relationships right now and foster them to see, to lay the seeds so that later on, as we grow into seedlings and strong plants and like trees, we can leverage each other's skills to make sure that these roles are getting filled and that high quality work is being delivered upon with excellence. And so my advice to someone, at the DAO, you first have to just try shit out. I'm a huge proponent of
failing forward.
Just throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. And so I went in last year, especially when it got really cold outside, try to create something that gives you consistency for yourself, with whether it's paid opportunities or just a skill set that you're trying to leverage. For me, it was spaces. I had never really understood why at first I was so drawn to it. But then I realized that with my experience as an event producer, as a DJ, having the spotlight and giving me the microphone is where I shine the most, right? So I will talk up a storm. I will fill the gaps in the air with jokes or whatever it needs to happen in that particular moment, in order to help push the space, literally push the space forward. But
push the space forward.
If you're out there and you like creating artwork, there's so many AI tools out there right now. Oh, this is the crazy thing. I mean, we could literally dig into a whole section about AI right now, but ever since ChatGPT came out, Midjourney, Runway AI, Gamma app have come out, it has absolutely revolutionized the approach.
I believe that people are aware of ChatGPT and Midjourney. What are the others that you mentioned? Because I'm clueless to them.
Take a great workflow that I'll dig into in a second. Take Runway is the third one that I mentioned. Runway takes your images and makes them animations. So it makes them move.
Interesting.
And so let's say, something that I did recently is I prompted Midjourney to create a sunset view of the Lisbon Bridge with a red balloon floating over it. I took that prompt. So, if anyone listening is learning about prompt generation, you can go and talk to ChatGPT to help you create prompts. So, if that's where you're at, just to give complete a comprehensive answer for everyone that's tuning in, start with ChatGPT, figure out the prompts, how to navigate the prompts. You can also talk to Midjourney and read their FAQs to learn how to make prompts in Midjourney. Once you create the image that you want to use in your Runway creation, you can plug in the image into Runway, and with a prompt the program to do the thing that you want it to do. So for instance, in my example, I had the balloon. I wanted the balloon to float away as the sun was setting. And so you put in the prompt for that. You click generate. All of this stuff is free, by the way, to start off if you end up using more than the allotted monthly credits, which gives you, a few goes at it on a week-to-week basis, right? So if you go over those credits and you continue using the AI tool, which, by the way, at that point, it's like, okay, I clearly need this for work. I should, pay convert as a paid user, and just do month to month, right? Like for instance, I don't use Midjourney as much anymore because I don't do AI generated images for my particular phase of content growth that I am in, because now I'm focusing more on video content. My face is the generator, right? So
yeah,
when I was still creating images and kind of driving content through text and image based content creation, I was using Midjourney a lot. And now you can kind of create GIFs by plugging all of that stuff into Runway. Now, separately from all of that, I was just getting really excited about AI. I'm noticing like I'm calming down now. That's pretty funny. Separately from all of that, Gamma.app. If anyone is listening and, you need to create a slideshow for something with just like one line of code, you can go into Gamma.app. Again, it's free. Just sign up with your email and it'll shoot out a slideshow presentation for whatever you are looking to build. So recently, we're about to move. We have a bunch of furniture and stuff that we need to sell. I asked Gamma app to make a slideshow of all the different furnitures I'm looking to sell. And within 20 minutes, I had a fully fleshed out slideshow with all of the furniture I'm selling, descriptions, photos, and the price of every single piece of furniture I'm looking to sell. And you export that PDF, drop it into whatever group you're trying to sell it to, and you're done. It's like incredible. You don't have to go and create your own slideshows anymore. Caveat too, like I've spoken at a lot of conferences. The two conferences that are listed, on YouTube, ETH Lisbon and ETH Warsaw. I spoke at ETH Global in Lisbon. Those slide decks were made out of Gamma.app. It's AI. Nice. It's all AI. It's all AI, and it's like literally stuff that I was being very upfront about at the time, because this was like during that like weird phase of like, are we using AI at work? Is this going to take over our lives? Like that whole thing. And I was like, man, F all that. Like I'm going to use this, and I'm going to be like the person on the front end of this, because we create the culture here in Web3. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about working in this space and creating in this space, is that you can be the change that you want to see in the world, in the industry. And I have always fallen back on the motive of doing that. So I was very upfront, and it was scary. Don't get me wrong. During that time, it was this weird period. Like I said, like, is AI taking over? Are we going to lose all of our jobs? And the answer really is no. It's just to help enhance my job and enhance my career in ways where this stuff gets taken care of. And now I can go focus on the other thing. I'm realizing like I just ranted on this whole AI thing.
No worries. I think it's a hot topic for sure, and the pretty much is AI here to steal everyone's work, and people said the same on the tractor, and we're good. Like it's all good. So I wouldn't be too concerned, even though it's fun to play pretty much the end of the world scenario in different ways, and AI is a very good villain for that. You actually, and I wrote a note while you were talking, regarding pretty much just an AI, I would say just course, like pretty much all the tools that you can utilize in order to make your content creation experience better. I'm aware of several other tools. We didn't necessarily use them thus far, but tools for editing, like long form content, both video and audio, to extract shorts. Like there's a lot of various different tools out there. Some are free, some you need to pay for, that you can utilize in order to pretty much work less on stuff that matter a bit less than actually creating the content. And if you don't necessarily have a ton of resources and a full studio behind you, it's good to utilize those resources. So pretty much adding, I'm not sure if it's a course or whatever, like I'm not sure how we will present it, but having some sort of a step where users interact with AI tools and learn about them is probably something that would be very useful and pretty high leverage, and we haven't thought about it previously, so thank you for that.
I would love to share with you, man. Like, so my biggest blocker of starting video content was myself. And I follow, one of the biggest inspirations in starting this video content for myself is Alex Finn. He used to be known as NFT God, blew up because he's just like a whiz at reading code and, was putting out all this value on how to grow your profile on X. One thing led to the next, to the next, to the next. He started producing video content on X while also doing live shows. And I've signed up to his newsletter. One day, it was like a few Wednesdays ago. This is probably like literally 2 weeks ago. He mentioned, like in his newsletter, like, hey, if you're not making video content, like get off your ass and go make video content, because it's literally going to revolutionize your algorithm, your outreach, and your engagement on X. And the way he broke it down, and he's a New Yorker. I come from the tri-state area, so like he fueled me up right then and there. I turned the camera on as I was out for a walk, and I
same community
spoke into it.
Or adjacent, really.
And it was just like, I made like a quick video about how I'm going to start doing this shit, and so I put that out. It got a lot of views. Now, like I'm 3-4 videos later, and you can really immediately see the difference. And also now I'm meeting other video content creators that are giving me tips and tricks to like, feedback to improve the video process. To go back to what you're saying, like, I think for your users, Loom is a powerful, powerful tool that I did a product review about, which was essentially one of my first videos, because it's the tool that I'm using to literally create. It puts a little circle window of your face in the bottom corner, and you can go and analyze whatever you're looking to analyze.
I think a good comparison is. I think a good comparison to Loom is Loom to OBS is kind of like Canva to Photoshop. Like it's just simple, what you need, that's it. No real funny business.
Facts.
That's Loom.
And then for post editing, I mean, you were talking about the resources and having a studio behind you. You don't need any of that anymore. Like the biggest thing, I was like, oh, so beyond me, I was like, how I have to go and put all this time in captions and transferring, the audio. Like you don't have to do any of that. One-click AI, it makes captions for you. You could choose different templates on CapCut. By the way, the tool is CapCut. I don't know if I said it earlier, but one-click editing, and it enhances the video, it enhances your voice, it makes the captions for you. All that stuff is intuitive in the actual platform. And again, pay month to month. Right now, that's what's useful for me. The $20 that I used to spend on Midjourney is now going towards CapCut, and it's creating the same impact for me, but I'm just in a different phase of my creator journey.
Yeah, for sure. Very interesting. So let's tie everything that we talked about here a little bit to community. So how do you view the role of community in pretty much driving adoption and engagement throughout the Web3 space, not necessarily just for brands as like companies, DAOs, projects, entities, games, but also to your own, like your personal brand.
Yeah, like, so, I come from the creator's perspective of being a creator for companies. And it took me a really long time to sharpen the sword when it came to personal brand.
Mm-hmm.
And, with time, really over this last year ish, I started to realize, like, okay, through the things that I'm building, I can leverage personal brand. But, if you just jump right into it as a content creator, it's a difficult road to dig into. But also from my experience, I wouldn't know how to do that because I've always done company content first. So when you're building content for a company or a community for a company, you can't. First of all, people don't value this, and it's foolish to not value a head of community. It's foolish to not value a community manager, because if you don't have an active and thriving community that is chomping at the bits, that is active and energized about what you're building, you will not have product market fit. You won't have feedback about what you're building. The market won't consume the thing that you're trying to push into the market. Doesn't matter how good your marketing is, doesn't matter how good your vision is. If you don't have community, there won't be adaptation. And so from a company standpoint, that would, like, my initial, which is, like I was saying, my initial exposure to all of this, you need to build community and you need to be present for those folks. If you all of a sudden disappear, or you're not, if you're committing to dates and you don't have follow through on those deadlines or updates about those deadlines, people start to FUD your project. And it can be a very loud thing that you have to deal with the more you ignore it. And they always say this, like, the voices of a few can become very loud on the timeline, just because they were upset about something, or something didn't go the way, when token go up, why token down 20%. It's like, hey man, you can't hold me accountable for your shitty $100 investment and now it's down 20-40% or whatever. Like, these are comments that will come towards the end of the latter part of next year, or any project that's building during this time, and they start to flop on their token valuation. So be prepared. Yeah, like I was mentioning, it's like building that company project is really great, but the lesson that I learned hard last bull cycle was, once I left the lending protocol and started leaning into my personal brand, I realized I had no personal brand. All the connections and everything that I made with the people in that company, like, they just kept on building whatever they were building, and I was kind of like,
So it was attached to the title, not necessarily to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so you have to always remember, that your personal brand is everything, and somehow figure out a way to leverage and carry it with you wherever you go. Because if you leave it behind, it will die, just like a community project would. And so I think, like, through this past year and a half of me kind of just like showing up on the timeline every day, being the reply guy, being the content creator that I am, I now have people that are reaching out to me asking about marketing opportunities, or help or challenge, like help on challenges that they're going through and things that they need help working on. So that it's turned into a really wonderful thing, and I feel like because of the journey that I've been through, I am now able to help others that are just starting in their journey. So even if it's just like a video clip that they watch and they get value from it, for me it's a win.
Nice. That's a good note to end on, and I think the best 45 minutes really flew by.
Yeah,
which is probably a good thing, because that means that we have a decent episode, I believe, if both me and you felt that way. Before we end off, I really want to thank you first and foremost for being here and sharing your expertise, sharing your journey, sharing everything that you've learned during your time. As you said previously, I learned about you from the calls that I found, or from the talks that I found on YouTube. I would encourage everyone to tune in to them. I believe that all they need to do really is just search for your name, and they will probably find it, I believe. So we'll make sure to tune into them. I think they're super helpful. So before we go, do you want to share your Twitter or anything else? So obviously everything will be in the description, but still.
Yeah, definitely. Again, thanks for the time, man. I totally agree with you. The 45 minutes flew by. And I think there was a lot of really good conversation that happened here. So again, appreciate the opportunity. Shout out to Game 7 and everything that you guys are building over there.
Thank you.
As a Web3 gamer myself, I love that you guys are bringing this into the forefront of our industry. So thanks for doing that. And then, anyone that's tuning in, my DMs are open on Twitter, Discord, Telegram. I'm CryptoMattk across all platforms. So if you want to connect, I'm happy to hop on a one-on-one call or just jam in the DMs. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Matt Kilzewski. Just type in my name, you'll find me. And yeah, man.
We will have the last name listed on the episode title, because we know it's on the more difficult side, and obviously with a name like Itamar,
yeah,
a lot of people are struggling.
The Eastern European Polish name there is it's a tough one. Yeah. So yeah, definitely keep the comments below, folks.
Exactly. Nice. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone for tuning in. As always, you listening, liking, following, sharing, anything in between really helps this show grow, and we appreciate you for doing any of it. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya. Thanks.